There's an island where the trees look wrong. They stand like upturned umbrellas, thick, flat-topped canopies balanced on bare trunks, as if someone drew a tree from memory and got it backwards. Cut one, and it bleeds a thick, bright red sap. Nearby, other trees swell into fat stone bottles, sprouting pink flowers straight out of rock. Photographers call this the most alien-looking place on Earth, and every picture of it gets passed around as proof that some corner of another planet slipped into ours. But it's not another planet. It's a real island, with towns and roads, and about 60,000 people. So why does everything here look like this? And why nowhere else? This is Socotra, 4 islands, sitting alone in the Arabian Sea. Politically it belongs to Yemen, but look at a map and something is off. It's about 350 kilometers from the Arabian mainland, and only around 240 from the Horn of Africa. It is closer to a different continent than to its own country, and that distance is the whole story. Roughly 20 million years ago, this piece of rock broke away from the ancient landmass it was part of and drifted out here alone. Down its spine run jagged mountains, high enough to catch the monsoon winds and comb mist out of them. So it became something rare, a wet island, in a region that was about to dry out. Cut off from everything, life here went its own way. Of the roughly 825 plant species on Socotra, more than a third grow nowhere else on Earth. Around 90% of its reptiles are found only here. So are 95% of its land snails. There's even a tree in the cucumber family, the only one of its kind. And that famous upturned umbrella? It isn't decoration. It's a machine. The dense, flat canopy combs moisture straight out of the passing fog. The water runs down the branches and trunk into the tree's own roots, and the shade it throws stops that water evaporating out of the soil. It's a plant that builds its own rain. It grows about 2 centimeters a year and can stand for centuries. But the untouched alien world idea falls apart twice over. First, people were never absent. Socotra's red resin, dragon's blood, was one of the most sought-after goods of the ancient world. Greeks, Romans, and Egyptians used it as dye, as medicine, as varnish, even as stage blood. This wasn't an undiscovered planet. It was a famous stop on ancient trade routes, with its own people and its own ancient language. And second, the timeless landscape is not timeless. Goats brought here long ago eat every seedling before it can grow. Botanists surveying the great forests find old trees and almost no young ones. Then the cyclones came, stronger and more frequent, and knocked down thousands more. So why does Socotra look like another planet? Here's the answer, and it's the opposite of alien. These plants aren't strange newcomers, they're survivors. Their ancestors once grew widely across Africa and Arabia, back when that whole region was greener. Then the climate turned, the mainland dried out, and they died there. But out on this island, the mountains kept combing water out of the mist, and so they never had to leave. Socotra isn't a piece of somewhere else. It's a piece of before, a fragment of an older world that quietly kept living while the rest of it disappeared. The island didn't become alien. Everywhere else changed, and Socotra simply didn't. And that is the real reason it's there. Socotra is an arc. It exists as it does because a splinter of land drifted far enough to be forgotten, and high enough to keep catching water when the mainland gave up. Everything that makes it look impossible is really just the fingerprint of being left alone. But an ark only works while it stays afloat. Goats, storms, and a war on the mainland are doing in a few decades what 20 million years of isolation protected against. A tree that grows 2 centimeters a year cannot outrun that. The most alien place on Earth isn't from the future or from space. It's the past, still standing and running out of time. That's why it's there. Every place hides a story like this, just beneath the surface. We'll keep digging them up, one map at a time.